And if you could join me in the pledge. I pledge
allegiance
To the
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under
under
God,
God,
indivisible, with
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. So we have some business to attend to, and then we are going to go into a closed session. I'm not sure if the board members were all here. We will then pause this session, go into a separate link that was sent on your Swartz Creek emails, and then when we're completed with that, we'll come back to this Zoom session. And so I think Kylene and Brittany were able to hear that, so thank you. All right, so with that, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Mike?
Or
Alicia?
Jessica.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jessica.
That's okay.
Any comments or questions? Hearing none. Joanne, could you do roll call, please?
Certainly. Brian,
Yes.
Carrie,
Yes.
Alicia,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
Chuck,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
and Tony.
Yes.
That's 7 yeses.
All right. We have a consent agenda. Thank you. We are going to go into closed session for the purpose of collective bargaining for the Open Meetings Act 15.268, Section 8C. I need a motion to do so.
So moved. Jessica.
Or
Was that Jessica?
Yes.
Do I have a second? I'm sorry.
or
Ford.
Mike? Any comments or questions? All right, Joanne, could you do roll call, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Jessica,
Yes.
Chuck,
Yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Mike,
yes.
Carrie,
Yes.
and who did I miss?
Alicia.
Alicia,
I'm sorry.
that's okay. Yes.
Thank you. 7
All right.
yeses.
Thank you, Joanne. So we will go into closed session and return to this Zoom meeting once we've finished. So go to your Swartz Creek email and you can get the link from Ben.
Thank you.
Thanks.
No, we are muted right now because they're in closed session.
Don't you think they could have done this before they had everybody on hold? Should have done this before now. Don't you think they could have done this before they put? I guess you don't really. Don't want to hear what the public has to say, maybe? Vote them out. Vote them out. All of.
I think we're just waiting for Brian. Hi, Brian. I think we have everybody. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Great. Okay, so Travis, are we set or do we need to wait a second?
You're good to go.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we are returning to open session at 6:57. And with
Carrie,
that, I'm sorry?
it's Alicia. I still can't get the camera to work. I'm going to try to log out and log back in real quick.
Sure. Go ahead, Alicia.
Ta-da.
Hello.
All right, that worked. Thank you.
All right, good, thank you. Okay, so we are returning from a closed session, and I would like to invite Mr. Meinke to, I think that's where we are, Mr. Meinke to give us his superintendent report, and I know you have lots to tell us, Ben.
Sure. So I appreciate having an opportunity to just kind of give you an update on things that are going on. And I guess I would say that I'll start by letting you know that we in the past week have received some unprecedented news relative to things that go on in Lansing. So the legislature very rarely comes together and does something outside of the ordinary where they act in anything outside of their normal session. And the legislature had a rare meeting on Saturday this past week, and they passed a series of bills that impact schools. Some of the highlights of that include the funding formulas for how students will be counted this year. They're essentially calling for a 75% weight for this year's funding to be based on last year's fall count, and 25% of this year's student funding to be based on this year's fall count. And they're doing that largely because of the transient populations and the number of kids that are, moving between districts and possibly going into online modalities. That's very challenging. They've also established a need to have for students in an online format, two-way communication, which is typically by phone. It could be by Zoom or an online format. Could even be through the computer in some way, shape, or form. So that is something that is in place, and they have moved that forward. They've also the largest thing that's going to impact us, as you know, you just finished approving at our last board meeting a month ago, all the work we've been doing for the past summer, our COVID-19 preparedness and response plan and how we're going to do school. Well, we're going to be doing yet another plan, and it's going to be a longer plan, and we're going to have more things in the plan. And so it's not anything that's going to have any major impact on how we're doing it. It's just they want to see more documentation. And so we're going to start working again on creating another plan, which will have to be approved by the board by October 1st. And so those things are some legislative happenings that are very, very rare. The governor is expected to sign those into law within the next day. So she and the legislature work together on that. The governor's council is doubling down and reaffirming their back to school roadmap, and essentially saying that they have put together a list of ways that people can resume school in phase 4 if there are precautions in place. Our preparedness plan, as you know, includes all of those things. And so I feel very confident in terms of our plan and moving forward with allowing parents to choose whatever modality they feel is best for their child. And so we're offering a fully online, we're offering a face-to-face, and we're also offering a hybrid or a blended format. We've communicated that very extensively. I will say that obviously, as we've tried to staff for this, our support staff, our principals, our teachers, this is a Herculean effort. They're really doing some amazing work. And so hopefully everybody can understand that as there's a balance between offering choices and then also having to actually have people that can support and staff the positions. So we did our staffing and we asked people to make selections by July 31st. We are filling up in terms of different things. And so we've said right from the outset, we need to know this information, because once we staff it, we can't make those changes. And so at this time, our blended modality is full. We are at capacity, and so we're not accepting any more children into that particular option. So for anyone that did not make their selection before August 1st or on July 31st, they still have the option of face-to-face and online. We are getting close to the point where for new students that would come in to the district, or for students that have not made an affirmative selection, that we would be shutting down some of our face-to-face sections, and online would be the only option for people coming in at that point. So it's important that parents made that selection by August 1. If they wanted some face-to-face and they didn't make that selection, they need to reach out to us. They're by default scheduled in face-to-face, but if they have any concern, they should be working with their building principals to make those a selection, because obviously, again, there's a balance between staffing. I have to be able to ensure that we can adequately do that. And so we can't have, parents saying, well, now I'm changing my mind and I'm going here and there. We can still offer an online and a face-to-face, but the blended sections at this point are closed. And so as we think about that, one of the things that has been very, very impressive has been we have multiple teams of people that are working. We have an elementary task force. We have an E2020 task force. We have principals that are working on a lot of the preparedness plans for the safety protocols. But I'd like to, acknowledge the work of three individuals, three teachers. Dave Samancic, Heather Loney, and Tanya Brownfield have been working very tirelessly to provide training and support to our teachers on Canvas. Canvas is our learning management program. We've been working very diligently to try and get that off the ground, and they've been nothing short of amazing. What I will say is that we have entered into a spot where based on the ISD doing everything they can and trying to get these logins right and get everything set up, we're running into some complications that makes me a little bit uneasy about starting school on September 1st. And so I'm recommending, and I'm doing this as a part of my superintendent's report, I would recommend that if you feel it's appropriate, that a board member would make a motion to start school on September 8th, which would be after Labor Day. It will give us an additional week to ensure that our teachers have the supports they need, to make sure they get the training they need. I'm confident in our ability to start school on September 1st, but I would feel a whole lot better if our teachers had the certainty of knowing that they're going to be potentially teaching, on a face-to-face class and then going online. And so I would recommend to you as a board that we would push back the student start date to September 8th. And so I'm going to share my screen as a way of making that recommendation so that you can understand, and for anyone in the community. And of course, we'll be, depending on your decisions tonight, we'll be communicating this out. Let me just make a better version of this and pull it up. Hold on just one second. I would also just kind of like to highlight that we have worked with our collective bargaining groups and our teacher groups on, we always bargain our calendars. And one of the things that we have come to an agreement on is that we would start the first week of school in half days. And the reason that we would do that is to allow for teachers and students and everybody that's helping with the sanitation and cleaning protocols to feel as though they would have complete ability to manage the new mandates, because we know that this is going to be new. We know that this is going to be a challenge for some. And so as we think about starting school, not just a week later, but also starting in those half days, that is something that the teachers have agreed to, and obviously for your consideration as a board tonight. So what I'd like to just kind of propose as a board, and I will preface this by saying that in the legislative session this past week, the outcome of that was that our school districts were not subject to the same 180 days and 1,098 minute or hours in a school year. They are actually removing that provision with the understanding that school districts will still meet for the number of days required to provide one adequate year of instruction. We believe that we can absolutely do that in this calendar. And so this does not change the end of the year schedule for families or for teachers or anyone else. It's just simply shifting some days. So in our current agreed upon calendar with the teachers, which is again subject to your approval tonight, the teachers would have professional development days on August 26th and August 27th. The first day of school would be September 1st, which would be a half day in the PM. Swartz Creek has done that for years. That's not a new thing. But what is a little bit new is we would propose that September 2nd and 3rd would also be half days. In that, those would be morning days for students. So they would come in the morning, they would leave in the afternoon. The teachers are still working full days on those days. And then on September 4th, as in our current calendar, school would not be in session. What I'm proposing is not changing the teacher days in terms of when they come into work or when they're required to be doing some work. We're just simply shifting it down. And so by giving the August 26th and 27th day and also the September 3rd day, that gives our teachers 3 additional days to train, prepare, build their classes, get their classes online set up. And it makes it a lot easier for them and for us as a district to feel like they're going to be able to have the support and the time they need to be able to walk into the classroom on September 8th and be ready to go. It would shift and allow for September 11th to be a day off of school. So we're essentially shifting this week to September 8th. The teachers are still going to be working on those days as they've already agreed to, but we'll be working with their leadership team to kind of sort out what those days look like. This will allow for the teachers to be more prepared. It will also allow for the students to be more prepared and to ease into this. They're not going to be coming back to school cold turkey and, figuring out how do I wear a mask all day? How do I do some of these things? And so it's going to take a lot of those challenges off the table. And I believe give us a chance to start with our best foot forward. I will say that the vast majority of school districts in Genesee County have pushed off start to September 8th. That has almost become a universal start date for districts in Genesee County. And I think it's certainly a prudent decision to make based on what we're seeing and wanting to make sure that our teachers are fully comfortable to start the year. So I'd like you to consider that. Obviously, that would cause you as a board to have to make a motion to that effect if you felt it was appropriate. And, you could add that to the action items on the agenda for tonight if that was something you chose to do. And it could be board action item J, which would be to approve the student start of school on September 8th. And again, one last time, this would not extend the school year, nor would it have to change any of the other points in the calendar.
Any questions for Ben on this?
Carrie, yes.
Yes.
Ben, how does this affect any of the blended classrooms? What do they go on any of those half days?
Yeah, the buildings actually are working out those schedules right now. Our buildings will be sending out all of the information on the start of school to parents on Friday. That is our plan. And it's largely predicated on the decisions you make tonight regarding this calendar. And so they will provide that information of which days hybrid students will come. They will likely come one of those first days of the week to get acclimated to what it's like to be in a face-to-face environment. There will be one day where the kids do not report, and then there'll be another day where the opposite group comes, if that makes sense. So kind of mirroring similarly what they have during the week. They're going to come once, be off twice on that first week, on that 3-day week. So the principals will be communicating that calendar.
Okay, so it sounds like there's an opportunity to add to our board action items. I don't know if we need a motion to amend the agenda to add J. If there's a motion to that effect.
So moved. I'll move that.
Jessica,
Mm-hmm.
any second?
Or
Thanks, Mike. Any comments or questions? Hearing none. Joanne, you want to do roll call for the addition of the change in the start date to J? We're just adding it to the agenda at this point.
Okay. Chuck,
Yes.
Brian,
yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Carrie,
Yes.
and Brian. Oh, I called Brian. I'm sorry. Alicia,
Yes.
7 yeses.
Thank you. All right, we'll add that as item J.
So I have I appreciate that consideration. As I kind of wrap up my report for this evening, I have more that I'll share when we get into the start of school planning. But what I'd like to just take a moment to recognize, we have a number of our food service employees who over the course of the summer, and will continue this into the school year, have been coming in every week to pack meals, to serve children, to make sure that our kids do not go hungry. And these people, we hear about, heroes and the frontline heroes all the time. And we have a lot of them and a lot of great examples of people who are heroes. Our food service employees who have been preparing meals, who have every single week come in spite of the safety concerns, they've worn their masks, and they've ensured that our kids got food. They just need to have a huge kudos. And I want to make sure that they're publicly recognized. I know that they don't get enough credit for the work that they do. And I think it's an incredible feat. We have a lot of people doing some amazing things, but their work should not go unnoticed. Thank you.
So yes.
This is it.
Yeah.
Can we
Thank
do
you.
something extra for him, Ben?
I would love to do that. And
what
we're
would be-
looking at how we can do that as well.
what would be a good suggestion for something where the board can show more of an appreciation for them? Because, that's near and dear to my heart, like it is all the other board members that they're doing this.
I'd like to get with, I'd like to get with Chris in terms of what we would have in the budget, but I could definitely see some sort of a hazard pay stipend, and as a thank you would go a long way. I know in the budgets for the Senate and the House and the governor's plan does call for some hazard pay for teachers, and I'm certainly in favor of that, but I also don't think it's appropriate to leave out people like food service employees who have been doing this and many of our other support staff. So anyone that's been working this summer on food service, I think it would go a long way just to provide them with a small token of appreciation. So I maybe could talk with Chris about what that would look like and then bring that back for your consideration at our next meeting.
I know we talked about maybe giving up some money for the board members. Maybe we could give a little of our money to them if we can't come up with some money. And I would be more willing to do that, to give them some money from my stipend to support them, just to show my appreciation.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Mr. Melky.
I second that. That's a fantastic idea, Chuck.
And I support that as well.
Thanks for the support. Yeah, I want to help them guys out and girls out that are doing their diligent, because like Ben said, they're going on notice and they're making the lunches and providing food for our kids that are can't eat or don't have the money to eat, and they're making sure that happens. So that's near and dear to my heart, as is I know all yours. So thanks for that support. But I think if we give up some of our stipend money, maybe we should try to help them out if there's not any in the grant money from the federals. But even if there is, maybe we could give them a little extra. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you.
And thanks for recognizing them, Ben. Appreciate that. And for all the work that they're doing, and for Michael's leadership there. Anything else, Ben?
That concludes my report for this evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Moving on, we have a student representative report from Brendan. Hi, Brendan. How are you?
Good. How about you?
Good. Go ahead.
All right. So overall, the students seem eager to return to school and look forward to resuming lessons and interacting with people once again. Many students have even stated that they miss learning, so that I think that was an exciting thing to hear. Students seemed concerned, however, regarding how classes will be conducted for those choosing the face-to-face or hybrid option. Some wonder what health and safety precautions will be taken, such as social distancing in classrooms, requirement of masks, use of hand sanitizer and hand washing, among other things. And while these are things to be expected regarding the current state of our country, students wonder exactly how these practices will be modeled at Swartz Creek. And overall, I'd like to thank everyone on the board, all, as you said, all of the hardworking staff, anyone who's diligently worked on making sure that we can return to next school year with as much normalcy and as possible. And I just, on behalf of the students, I'd like to thank you all for your hard work and everybody else. So thank you.
Thank you, Brendan. And Ben, I don't know if you can follow up with Brendan to answer any of his specific questions. I know you guys put together a lot of FAQs and there's a lot of materials, but it's a lot to read through as well. So maybe just a summary to address some of those issues. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, so we do have board subcommittee reports. Brian, are you ready with policy?
Yep. We met, the policy committee met Monday, and at 7 o'clock. We had the whole hour was spent on with Wayne Wright. He's the presently he's the superintendent for Goodrich Schools. He's also the Neola rep. We discussed the Title IX policy. I believe it's 2266. The new non-discrimination on the basis of sex in education programs or activities. It's about a 23 to 28 page document. I don't remember if it's 23 or 28, but it was a long document and we walked through it and we looked at all the different options. And Mr. Wright explained the options and the reasons, some of the options that were probably better for us. So after we didn't make any recommendation on it. We've still got to go through it as a team, a board team. So it's for our approval. It's in the board doc, this policy. So if everybody gets an opportunity to read it, it's like I said, it's 28 pages, and it's we need to make a decision on it in the near future.
What I'd like to do is by our next policy meeting, I'd like to make my recommendations to the committee and allow the committee to review those. And then maybe the committee could make a recommendation to the board for consideration on September 16th. Again, this particular policy is something that was precipitated by the federal government and the Federal Department of Education changing the Title IX regulations. And so as a result of that, we need to address some of our policies to that effect. So I'm prepared to provide that support and let the policy committee make a recommendation to the board at our next meeting.
To follow up, there was no public comment, and we adjourned at 0800. Any questions? Thank you, Ben.
Thank you, Brian. Thanks, Ben. All right, with regard to the Academic Achievement Committee, we met this past Monday morning. I want to thank Kevin Claren. In all my years on the board, this has been the most delightful review of the handbooks, and you made it so easy. And by going through the changes and making it, available online for families and for the board to look at, I want to thank you. We went through all of the district, the various levels of the district handbooks, the district overall, and then all of the different buildings and also the athletics. And Kevin gave us a very comprehensive overview, including the fact that we're removing all tables from the documents. And that is so that we are improving our ADA accessibility for people who have to use readers. And then also there's going to be information with links, because we know that COVID is a fluid pandemic. And so if there are changes in any kind of guidelines or rules, people will be able to link to those, and it won't require a full-blown change. Also, there was information on the learning modalities that we've all talked about extensively, some updates on the sick child policy related to CDC guidelines. And then there was a short discussion about the weighted grades being changed specific to dual enrollment. And then we talked a little bit about the Little Dragons program changes and language that's all required in those handbooks from the State Licensing Bureau. The state athletics links, similar to the other COVID links, are there because we know how fluid those decisions are right now and how changes might be made. Hopefully our kids will eventually be able to get back to normal in athletics and everything else that goes along with it, but that will have links so that we're not updating the entire handbook. And then the handbooks will be available on the district website. And we did talk about the availability of printed copies if families needed those. There was no public comment, and that was basically our meeting. And thanks again, Kevin. Appreciate it. Any questions? No? Okay. All right, Mike, I think it's your turn.
Okay.
Your finance.
Committee met on Monday. Present were Ben Manka, Chris Gray, Travis Smith, Jessica Leneve, and myself. The cash and investment report has been reviewed and is available on the website. Check register for July has been reviewed and following noted. General fund 100 checks in amount of $705,505.94. Payroll 20 checks, $2,097,079.46. Food services 3 checks, $34,114.64. Student account fund 8 checks, $9,281.80. Bond 4 checks, $168,486.46. The 1920 audit is still ongoing, and we are still waiting for the 2021 state funding to determine reductions and cuts. Bids are pending on food carts and Chromebooks are needed, but are not available at this time. There have been several change orders on the bond project due to the extensive work to get the elementary buildings ready for opening. None of the change orders have met the threshold of $50,000 that would require board action. And a pending expenditure that is anticipated to be coming before the board involves elms, drives. The Genesee County Road Commission wants deceleration lanes installed, and our engineers are currently negotiating this matter. There were no public comments. Under board comments, we discussed the fence change order for the athletic field. Also, the administration building delay, which is caused by consumers who is in a process of obtaining an easement from a resident south of the property. Next meeting is September 14th at 9 a.m. and we adjourned at 9:31 a.m. Any questions? Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you,
I
Mike.
oh, I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead, Chuck. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Chuck.
and this might be to Ben more so. I don't know if it's to Mike or Ben, but all the change orders we've had, do we have like a running total of that, Ben? I mean, I know it might be 5,000 here, 6,000 here, but is there a way for the board to see the amount of change orders, like just lumped into one sum that you could tell us without us sifting through it all?
Yeah, I actually can provide that to you shortly. I don't have it sitting in front of me, but we're tracking all of those logs, and so we can provide that certainly by our next meeting, but I could certainly do it before that as well.
Yeah, I'm sure Chris has it. And I know that some of them haven't met our threshold, or most of them haven't, except maybe this one coming up. But I think it'd be good for the board to know where we're at on the exact amount of overages. Although it might be small amounts, they lead to larger amounts, as accumulation. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, Chuck, I think you're up with building and site.
Okay. We had the meeting on August 17th. We started at 4:02 p.m. Present was myself, Jessica, Tony, Brian, Rod, Chris, Travis, Mike, and Ben. And RC was in and out because he had to do some last minute things with some of the contractors. The first thing we talked about is they want to buy a ATV/Gator purchase for the maintenance department because they need it to help maintain the football field, AstroTurf. They included the tools with the original price of all the AstroTurf, but no one figured in the price of the small ATV to run the tool. And Ben stated there was enough money, and Chris did too, in the current operational budget. And it was a relatively small purchase of $10,758, I believe. And the bid was done through My Deal. Any questions on that one? And number two was the bus lot fence guardrail. So there's as everybody knows, there's that guardrail that surrounds the bus lot. And Ben suggested that we put new fence posts in, guardrails, and electricity for the buses to keep their engines warm in the wintertime. This was due to the fact that the new fencing being put in around the football field makes more sense now to tear that fence out and replace it. Although that's not a bond issue, there was money also in the operational budget to do that, and it came out to, I believe, $15,500. And I could be wrong on that. Ben, correct me on that. Was that about the approximate price?
That is correct.
Okay. So instead of going in and tearing it up a year from now, everybody felt that it would be better to do it now. And Ben, I believe we've already started. And the radio tower update, the repeaters have been installed, the antennas have been installed. There's a 50% signal strength, a better rate than what we had before. It's digital, and it'll be sufficient for our entire district and saved us money instead of going with a more expensive system, which wasn't needed. The only thing we're waiting on now is consumers to hook up the electricity. It'll be operational by the start of the school year. And it came in at the original price quoted of about $14,000. So there's no overages on that. And then the next item was the school prep update. This was a lengthy discussion, but this is a short synopsis of it. The buildings are being prepared by the custodial staff. All the custodial staff has been hired or is in the process of being hired. There'll be extensive protocols in place that Ben has instituted with RC to maintain clean, disinfected the business per Michigan standards. And of course, Ben mentioned it earlier that the teachers will be helping out in the classroom, cleaning and disinfecting in between classes. According to Ben, the staff and the maintenance staff is all excited, ready to go back to work. The cleaning and disinfectant will have high standards for the safety of our students, and inspections are being performed on the other elementary schools. So the classrooms that are under construction should all be open by the end of this week. If I'm not mistaken, Ben can go on to which two were being already open and the other two that are being by Friday. I think it was Deke and Morris, but I'm not sure.
Yep, it's Deke, and then Morris will be. Morris is actually going to probably be ready to be done before Deke is. But Cyrene and Elms are well on their way, and actually Elms was completed today, so we're awaiting our final inspections on Friday for Cyrene and for Elms. So we're excited about that.
Right. And that was just that is going to be turned over from the contractors. Now, I made a suggestion, and I think everybody agreed at the building committee that maybe we should take tours of the buildings ahead of time just to see what it looks like. And Ben said that he would accommodate the board for those tours. And then there was the School Dude program and upgrades. The School Dude program is being initiated, installed, and RC will give the board a demonstration in September, or that's what he's planning on how it works and how it will be utilized for the benefit of the school. The School Dude has inputted all of our assets. Total cost was approximately $58,000, which is still within our original cost. Per Chris, it was a very extensive report. I believe it's about 160 pages. Many concerns have arisen, though, from the district on having to replace some critical items, and the board will have to prioritize these items and have a plan to be initiated and put in action for these items. The high school needs the most attention, with the middle school being next, and everything else is in good shape with the construction of the 5 elementary schools and the Cage public field house. There was no public comment, and then we did have some added discussion at the end of our meeting about brief discussion about pool repairs again, and that we're going to get some more, I believe, bids on it. And the students that are in the swim team will be utilizing the Flushing Country Club pool for the next several weeks before it becomes too cold. And I think they can go to the end of September, early October. And we adjourned at 4:51 p.m.
Any questions for Chuck? Okay, thank you, Chuck.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We do have a couple of board discussion items, beginning with the bond report and update. Is that you, Ben?
Yeah, Chuck actually said quite a few things that are right on point. I like to highlight a few additional things. So in terms of our construction crews, they've been working around the clock to try and get these elementaries prepared. We passed our inspections at Deke and Morris. We have a few punch list items that have to be corrected by Friday. Those are being completed today, tomorrow, and then of course on Friday before the inspector comes to check on those punch list items. We're going to be starting to turn classrooms back over, and teachers are going to be able to start getting in next week, which is great. And then the other piece to this puzzle, of course, is that we are going to, be prepared for what other projects we have going. And so the high school stadium is something that is well underway. The asphalt is there for the track now, and it's really interesting to see what an 8-lane track size looks like compared to the 6 lanes that we've had. The track surface layer is being laid next week at the end of the week because it takes 2 weeks for the asphalt to cure. But that project is moving along very quickly. They're putting the trusses on the outbuildings shortly, and then they'll be moving to getting the student parking lot in order where it's going to be serviceable to start the year. They will not actually pave and redo that lot until next year, but that's something that is coming out. At our bond steering committee today, we had a discussion. We received bids about a month ago on our middle school. The bids were pretty high, to the tune of about $1.4 million over what our projected budget was. We asked our architects and the construction managers to go back and try and sharpen the pencils and see, were there some places where we could have seen more savings. They did, in fact, come down. We got that number down to about $600,000 over what our projected budget was. The recommendation from our construction managers and architects, though, is that they believe that bidding in July, we probably did not see the best pricing that we could see. And so their recommendation was to move to rebidding the middle school project in October, which would provide for a spring start versus starting in the fall. And it would probably save the district substantial money because we wouldn't be doing winter conditions work. The kind of consensus amongst the team was that there's a lot of delays that have happened with COVID-19. And so being able to get the project started in the springtime will allow us to get better pricing, avoid winter conditions, and then actually be less disruptive during the school year with the amount of construction that's going to occur. So that was kind of the consensus from the steering committee. And so at this time, we're not asking the board to approve any of the bids because they were outside of our budgeted amount. And we still, we have the large project at the high school, which is also going to be bid out in October. And we did not want to be in a position where we're taking anything away from what the high school needs are, because that's obviously a big part of this project as well. So we're keeping everything in line and in budget, but this is one of those things that is just an unfortunate reality, is that sometimes you have to go back to the drawing board. What I will stress is that we are not looking at removing any of the major items at the middle school. The safety procedures or the safety improvements are all there. The STEAM edition is still there. And we're putting ourselves into a position where we're looking at some of the, I would say, more non-visible things, like some of the glass in the corridors and in the courtyards, some of the, ceiling tiles in certain areas, and just looking at value engineering on some of the heating and cooling units, making sure that we're getting the best pricing out of the contractors. So we think that's going to happen if we go back to bid in October, and we're going to do the same thing with the high school. So the high school and middle school look like they would, in this plan, start and construction would commence in the springtime once students are gone.
Okay. Any questions? Anything else, Ben?
That's pretty much it.
Any other questions for Ben on the bond? Okay. Now we have a start of school update.
So you heard me say a few things, and obviously up for your consideration this evening is the potentially starting school on September 8th for our students in a half-day format. And I believe that will create an opportunity for our teachers and our students to be able to acclimate to this new normal, and also for us to ensure that the safety protocols are fully implemented. I also believe that it will create an opportunity for us to be able to ensure that the technology is in place for our teachers to deliver what they need to deliver as it relates to online instruction. What I will say is that I've offered up 2 town hall meetings. We've done one, and that seemed to be fairly well received. We're going to be doing 2 more, one tomorrow night and one on Monday night. And those town hall meetings are really going to surface around parents and helping parents feel comfortable with the plans as we've already communicated them, but also to provide maybe a deeper level of understanding and provide them with an opportunity to ask questions. There are many, many protocols that are in place with the health department. We have already dealt with a few cases of COVID-19 just even in our summer activities. It's, I think initially a big concern to people, and certainly I don't want to minimize it, but I'm impressed with the Genesee County Health Department and the way that they've been able to respond. We are doing contact tracing protocols, and granted, it's going to be different when we have students in the building, but we have plans in place for that. And so I want parents to understand what the start of the school year will look like. And so as we kind of prepare for that, there's an understanding that we're basically running as a school district 3 separate schools. We're running an online school, we're running a blended or a hybrid school, and we're running a face-to-face school. And so each of those learning modalities brings with it its own unique set of challenges and opportunities, but we want parents to understand some of the things that might come up within those 3 modalities. And so that's the purpose of the town hall, just to help parents feel comfortable. I will say that we've been collaborating as a county, as superintendents, on how this is going to look and the different pieces to the puzzle. And I'm impressed with the fact that I believe that each school district is doing what they believe their community needs and is asking for. And I think we're no different. We've looked at the survey data. We're trying to provide these 3 different options so that parents can choose what they feel is most appropriate for their child. As I said before, we are looking at the blended program being closed at this point, but we certainly have the opportunity to move kids into the online format. And at this point, we still have some room in face-to-face as well. So we're trending in a good direction. Our principals are working very diligently to make sure everybody is in place, and we'll start communicating on Friday to the parents about schedules and open houses and all of those things that I know a lot of parents are wondering about. And depending on your decision tonight on the first day of school, that'll be a part of that communication as well. So we're feeling confident, and we are very excited to see our students. Obviously this is going to be something that we have to be very cautious with and careful. Our principals are working down to the T of, for example, one just small example, middle school and high school students, something that I'm sure Brendan doesn't want to hear, but we're going to be required to have seating charts. And so you might ask, well, why would we have to have seating charts? Well, the answer is because to the fullest extent possible, we want to try and achieve social distancing. As we've said, we can't fully guarantee that social distancing will be realized, but what we really need to know is if we have to go into contact tracing, we need to know exactly where each student was and who they may have come into close contact with in order to make this work. At the high school level, for example, passing time, we're going to be asking students to travel in one direction instead of having kids walking in multiple directions. We've got kind of a map system of how kids are going to have to travel and walk. There's going to be expanded passing time so that kids can have extra time to wash hands and extra time for the teachers to disinfect and clean, and the custodians clean all the high touch point surfaces. So just giving you a little bit of an insight as to many of the things that we're doing and considering and walking through, those pieces are important and they'll be in place. So I remain confident in our team's work. They've been working very hard to make sure that they're focused on safety, but also focused on instruction so that we can provide both of those things to our kids. And for many of our children, we know that they need to be in school if we can do it safely. And we know that there's also a number of kids that are going to benefit from the online or even the hybrid modality. So I'm excited to see how this works. And I will say that our team is very dedicated, and they've been working very hard to pull off, quite frankly, what I think is a miracle in a short order. So it's been fun to watch.
Ben, are you able to share with the board and the community the proportion of families and students that chose the different modalities?
Yeah, in initial surveys, it was about 70% of people that chose face-to-face. That number has declined to about 60% at this point. So roughly 60% of our students will be in a face-to-face format. We have about 20% that are going to be blended and another 20% that will be online. And those proportions will slightly fluctuate depending on circumstances or family needs. As I said before, we're always prepared to be able to move someone from a face-to-face to an online format. We can do that. Being able to actually staff a blended program, as I said earlier, we went ahead to make sure that our blended students had to make that selection before, on July 31st. So it's going to be not feasible for us to be able to just move in and out and say, okay, we're going to, allow people to just jump into those, because we couldn't possibly have a staffing model that would work for that. But to answer your question, about 60% face-to-face, 20% online, and 20% hybrid. And, kind of interestingly, the vast majority of our teachers had choices as well. And the vast majority of them were able to teach in their preferred modality. So, a teacher might say, well, I have a underlying health condition. If there's any way I could teach online. And our principals have been amazing. They've been able to accommodate almost every one of those requests, so that we can match the student need with the teachers. And that's been great. So we're ready to kind of start with those percentages.
Thanks for sharing that. I know there have probably been questions in the community about why certain modalities were offered or how they're being chosen. So I think that's helpful.
Sure.
Any other questions for Ben?
I do, Carrie. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brian.
Oh, okay. I saw the sign up form for the town hall meeting. Is that going to be a face-to-face and a virtual Zoom?
No, it will be on Zoom. We're opening it up. We'll put it out there. We'll try and stream it. If we can't get it streamed, we will at least release the recording. But there are limited seats, but parents can sign up for either tomorrow nights or Mondays, whatever works best for their schedule.
Gary,
Yes, go ahead, Mike.
I have concerns that I was going to speak to about the school opening. I can either talk now or read it now or do it at board comments, whichever.
Why don't you do it now? I think if we're going to be talking about school opening, et cetera, that would be better now.
Okay. These are my concerns. I respect the decisions of parents who want their children in school, whether it is for the social contact, because a parent or parents work, or that's just how they feel. Our plan has attempted to accommodate all the parents' choices. I respect and commend our teachers and staff who want to teach face-to-face regardless of the risk. What does concern me is, do we have any students going to face-to-face who don't want to be there because of the COVID epidemic? Now, Ben has stated tonight that those going face-to-face still have the opportunity to go to an online, which is great. When I prepared this, I was under the impression that all those who hadn't filled out the last survey were put in face-to-face. Teachers I'm concerned that we have teachers that don't want to teach face-to-face because of the COVID-19 epidemic for the fall semester, but are afraid to say anything because of the fear of being labeled a radical or fear perceived or real retaliation. Do we have staff who have the same concerns and can't afford not to work in order to pay their bills and feed their families? I have spoke with parents, teachers, and staff who feel that way. I'm concerned for the safety and health of the Swartz Creek community and the spread of COVID-19. I'm highly concerned that face-to-face class sizes may be near, at, or possibly above last year's numbers. I'm concerned that so many schools in the county and state have opted to go online for the first semester, even though initially planning to go face-to-face. For the safety and health of our students and staff, I respectfully request that the administration and board consider going to all online for the first semester. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Ben, would you like to address that?
I mean, certainly, I think you as a board have to make that decision. I will tell you that we have been doing a lot of work to try and enact the plan that we've approved. If you as a board want to go in a different direction, you know that I'm going to be here to do whatever it is you need me to do. What I will say is, by providing parents choice, we are allowing those that are concerned to be able to still choose that option. We're not taking away anyone's ability to go online. And that's something that I think is an important piece in this. It's not black and white, and I think the school district is trying to provide as many opportunities as we can to whatever parents feel comfortable with. This is a very divisive issue, and so some people will say, everybody should be in school, and some people would say everybody should be online. And so what we're trying to do is walk that fine line, and we're trying to meet both of those needs. And so, I'm prepared and we're prepared to execute our plan as we've planned. But we will also respectfully do whatever it is the board wishes as it relates to that particular piece. I will say that a semester is an awfully long time. There's not a single school in the county that I'm aware of that's going for an entire semester. Most of the schools that have chosen to do that, they may be choosing to do so for a month and then reevaluate. But at this time, we are prepared and we are executing our plans, and we are agile, and we'll make the adjustments that the board wishes to see. And so, I'm at your disposal at this point.
I would like to say that in lieu of the town hall meetings that we're going to have this coming week, that I'm not asking you to take any action tonight. I'm just asking you to keep an open mind and to listen and see what comes out of the town hall meetings. And hopefully everyone that wants to talk at those meetings will have that opportunity. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Any other comments from other board members?
I'm waiting on my turn. You okay now? Can I go?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. My original comment was before Brian got in here was that we've worked hard, or Ben's worked hard to do this 3-plan system, and he's given everybody a choice instead of being a, tyrant saying this is the way we're going to do it. And everybody's input should be taken into it, but people should also have choices. And I think we're one of the few districts that have went over and above and gave everybody a choice by a blended program. If somebody's scared or apprehensive or have underlying medical issues, they can do the online program. And for the parents that do need to have their children in school for the interaction and the socialism and the health and welfare from too, because there's a health and welfare issue getting those kids into school. And those parents need to make that decision. And we're making decisions based on our teacher staff. And if we have teacher staff that can't do the job or are afraid of it at this point, I don't know if we've given them an outlet. Maybe we need to look at that. But I think that this board and the administration staff have done a great job in trying to give people choices, because there's a lot of unknowns. A lot of people are fear mongering, and a lot of people are generally concerned, and there is problems with COVID. But I think we're doing the right thing by giving this 3-choice plan. And I commend the administration for doing this. And I think that's a choice that the individual parent will have to make as they're paying the tax dollars, and they should get something for their money instead of a kid sitting in front of a computer for an hour or two if they choose not to have that. With their safety, letting them make the ultimate decision. Thank you.
Go ahead, Alicia. Sorry.
No, that's okay. First and foremost, I want to say I absolutely 100% ditto every single thing you just said, Chuck. That was extremely well put. I couldn't even say it that well. So thank you. I agree. I think there's been a whole lot of work. And unfortunately, these are scary times. And we haven't made that decision for others. We're making them make the decision that fits best for themselves. But I think that's our best position. I did have 2 other questions, different than Mike's comments. So I don't know if you want other comments on Mike's before
Sure,
other questions.
Go ahead.
I don't have anything on Mike's. I just have other questions.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Ben, you spoke about the town hall meetings. First of all, thank you. There aren't many people coming forward to offer as much communication. So I commend you for that. But as well, just ask to kind of piggyback off of what Brendan expressed. Lots of staff, lots of parents have questions, but there are a lot of questions from the students. I would assume most of those are from our, older students. Parents can definitely participate in the town hall. When I do myself, I bring my child with me so he can listen as well. But are there possibly some opportunities where there can be some student-specific ones, especially if we consider that we're going to push school a little bit later? I don't know if anywhere in that time frame, or if I know there's like traditional orientation for our transitional years, but I think every student has some more student-specific questions, whether that's just a video or a town hall with the principal or something of some sort that can address it directly to the student. What's your day going to look like? What's going to be a little bit different? Who are your go-tos? That kind of thing, just to address the students and their anxiety potentially of going back to school or their questions. So I don't expect you to answer that right now. It's just more of a suggestion to possibly take back to your team. But I do have an actual question. I know we're considering pushing back the calendar primarily around the change in our educational form, or the online format, and the technology. That technology, if I understand correctly, the parents will also need to have access and the students will need to have access. Do we have a timeline at all that we think that orientation, like I know myself I'm going to want, but do we have a timeline that may be dispensable to the students and parents to get familiar with before the start of school at all?
Yeah, I think there's a number of tutorials that you can find for free. Canvas is one of the largest learning management systems out there. So you can learn, how do I log in and how do I navigate the screen? And so just by simply doing a cursory Google search, you can find a lot about Canvas. But the district will actually be providing some modules. We're working right now. Our first priority is helping the teachers feel comfortable. But certainly we do plan to offer some parent trainings. And the students will probably be able to teach all of us within the first couple hours of using it, but we'll probably be working through that with them as well. So there's going to be a number of those things coming out, and the buildings are going to be communicating that. But that's part of the reason why I'm suggesting that we start school after Labor Day, is because I just don't feel like there's enough training and high quality assurance that we're going to be able to run a high quality program, I should say, with Canvas until we've actually executed the training properly.
Okay. Is it, you say it like I can go out and look at how to get in. Is there a specific login that the school will eventually have to provide to us as parents, or this will be a generic that the student sets up?
No, there will be logins and students will have logins, and you'll be able to have access to all of that. But what I'm saying is that Canvas is a universal platform. So if you learn, kind of what it feels like, if you log in, you'll be able to see the way that it's, set up. But certainly you'll have a direct login. So it'll be a little bit different when you get that information. But that's going to be coming over the course of the next couple weeks, and obviously depending on when school starts on your decision tonight, it will have an impact on how quickly we can get that out.
Okay. And then Power School still remains, and we access that the same way we used to, or do we need to access that through Canvas instead?
No, it will work the same way. Canvas has a lot of integrations with Google. So I know a lot of parents are used to Google Classroom. A lot of our teachers are going to continue to use their Google Classroom, and they can run it through Canvas. A lot of Google Docs, Google Forms, Google Slides, all of those things integrate. And so teachers, one of the reasons we went with Canvas is a lot of our teachers have built content in those applications. And so they can pull all that right into their Canvas instance. And then Canvas will have its own, kind of feedback and grading program. They'll have their own assignment editor. It'll have its own, discussion board and way that you interact with content. But the teachers are all going to need to have some time to set that up. But even if you wanted to right now, you could do some basic research on Canvas, and you could find some YouTube videos and some tutorials about what it looks like, and you can kind of go on there and play, even if you wanted to do that right now.
Thank you. And then I would just like to anecdotally say, I have my own child who's in a college of education currently that has had exposure to Canvas, both in the classroom for himself, but also in observational settings, has observed it with a middle school classroom and says it's phenomenal. It's super easy. The kids pick up on it. It integrates, like you said, with all of those other platforms. If anyone's familiar with like a Blackboard system, it's much easier to navigate than that. And I would just say that, that's how our new educators are also being prepared, is in that platform. It seems to be the wave of the future as well. So I need to get a tutorial before he goes back to school.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Yep, that's all I had, Carrie. Thank you.
Thank you. Tony, did you have something? I thought maybe you.
Yeah, yes, I do. So I wasn't able to attend the special meeting. And I'd like to thank Mike for his views and getting his opinion out. But I can tell you what Chuck said, I'm 100% in agreement with. I think the 3 models that we have are going to be very successful. And I think people will model us when they see how successful we are. That's it.
Thanks, Tony. And if there's anybody else, hop in. I just want to say, I don't have children in school, but I have grandchildren. And this is a very individual and personalized decision that's very difficult and a lot of things to weigh. And I do appreciate that we have 3 options. I also appreciate your comments, Mike. I am convinced that in the event that we have a phase 2 of the pandemic, that this district is well positioned to pivot to online learning very successfully. But I also know that child safety will be the highest priority. I have no doubt that it will be. And we also, I know, have to consider, and every family situation is different. We have families who are going back to work, family who might have employment in the future. Maybe they're having challenges with daycare. And so I don't know that there's, anything else we can do right now, but I do appreciate that there are options based on the individual child's well-being, number one, the safety of the child or the concerns the family has. And I also know that we will continue to make sure that our kids are safe. So that's all I have to say. Anybody else?
I would like to speak if I may, Carrie.
Go ahead, Jessica.
Thanks. And because I appreciate Mike's comments and Chuck. I'll be honest, I talked to Ben a little bit earlier, similarly to Mike's concerns. I feel very conflicted. I think we're very well intentioned by offering the choices that we are, and as Ben put in his email the other day about being able to control the things that we can. And I know personally in life I've learned I can only control my thoughts, my actions, my attitude, and my impact on a situation, which means for my kids coming in, hopefully that they know then of wearing masks, of being responsible. I want to talk about it from there. There's so many things that we are well intentioned about that it only takes one to really make it all go haywire, right? And we know that. And I don't want to diminish all the hard work that's been put into this. And my kids are registered to go face to face. It's a very fine line. And I would just like, if Ben could maybe address today, tonight, and or tomorrow at the town halls, our preparedness to, as I said to him in one of the emails that we got based on some of the health department information, that in secondary, it affects 6 classes, 6 teachers, anywhere from 10 to 14 days, or one example gave that somebody, a teacher, I think could be out for technically 24 days. How does that affect the stability of us teaching kids? I know Alicia just talked about how amazing Canvas is, and we've heard about this before, again, talking about maybe using it for snow days and whatnot. Our level of confidence in how agile that we can be going from one to the other, and truly how much stability we'll be able to offer our face-to-face kids. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think I can address that. Part of why I'm asking you to consider moving to September 8th is because I want to have full confidence that if we go to phase 3, or in the suggestion that you're giving, say we have to quarantine a whole classroom or multiple classrooms, that we have the ability to still ensure that learning continues. And I believe very confidently that we'll be able to do that. And I don't want to minimize and say that it's going to be easy, because it's not going to be easy. I think what we're trying to fight for is the opportunity for parents to choose, and we're working really hard to try and provide face-to-face instruction. It is not the path of least resistance. I don't want to misrepresent the fact that if a student gets a COVID case and we have to look at who's been in close contact, which is defined by 15 minutes of distance within 6 feet, we may have to quarantine a number of kids or even staff members, and in the event that those things happen, if we have to close a school down, if we have to close a whole class down, those are things that we are prepared to do because we have to make sure safety is the primary factor. But with all that being said, at least our philosophy has been that we want to fight for the rights of every kid. And if we have kids that need online, we want to make sure we do a great job with that. If we have kids that need a blended, we want to make sure we do a great job. And if we have kids that need to be in school, we want to fight equally as hard for them. And part of doing this plan is fighting for each kid's right to have an education. And I'm not minimizing in any way, shape, or form the safety, because we're prepared to put classes and schools out. And that's why we're going to have to be able to be code switching between face-to-face and online and all those things. And so one could argue, well, that's going to be more disruptive. And I can understand that perspective. But we believe that if we're given the opportunity to have a face-to-face model following very stringent guidelines, that's better than nothing. And we're going to do everything we can to try and do that with the board's support. So I think all of you have very valid points, and we're just trying to navigate all of them and provide a support system for every child.
And can I ask one more question, if you would speak to it? And again, maybe it's more appropriate for tonight, or tomorrow. The executive order that we have to revisit as a board, our monthly revisit of our return to school plan. Could you speak to that?
Yeah, so part of the recent legislation requires the board every month to review our current plan, our status, and how it's going. Which means that for each board meeting, except for months where we have 2 meetings, we will have to have a portion of the meeting where we address that plan. We'll have to provide you with an update. You'll be able to weigh in on that. You'll be able to say, I think Mike Mr. Ahern was talking about how do we ensure that, we keep an open mind. And if the data and the health professionals are telling us we need to close, I think we need to be open-minded to that, and we need to be prepared to do that. But if we're given the opportunity to provide the options, I think we continue on our course, and then we take the best advice at that time. So you as a board are going to have to monitor this plan. I, of course, as a superintendent, will be monitoring this plan. And then every month we'll come back and say, is this working, or do we need to make some adjustments? And it may be something very quick where we hear there's been a surge in cases, or we have something that's changed from the medical recommendation, and we may have to act very quickly. And we're prepared to do that as well.
Thanks, and thanks again for all the work put into this.
For sure.
So Ben, will the data or information you share monthly include that comes from the GISD, given that we have kids from pretty much, the local communities and across the county attending at Swartz Creek?
Yeah, we will. We meet monthly as superintendents, and as a part of our regular meeting, we will be talking about, most of our time is spent talking about this actually. So there'll be a lot of information to share.
Okay, thank you. All right. One last time, last call for any comments before we move on. I think we have 2 folks amongst us who are pretty anxious for our next conversation.
Yes.
So I'm going to start with board action items, and we have 2 teacher candidates with us this evening.
Well, I'm going to let Mr. Heatherton go ahead and introduce our 2 candidates. We'll do one at a time, and we're going to have to vote to approve them individually, but we'll go ahead and let Mr. Heatherton go.
Yes. Absolutely. Thank you so much. I'm excited to bring 2 recommendations to you for your consideration for hire. Our first, let's go with Brittany Boyle. We are hiring or recommending for hire Brittany for German. Brittany has a master's in educational studies from University of Michigan, where she maintained a 4.0 GPA. She spent 2 years over in Austria studying immersion in a foreign language, and the committee was very impressed not only with her German skills, but with her ability to build connections and relationships with students. So we bring to you today for the position of German between at the secondary level between 8th and 12th grade, Brittany Boyle, and I'm just going to have Brittany say a little bit about herself and anything that I didn't say that she wants you to know about herself. Go ahead, Brittany.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, thank you so much for that introduction. As you said, I was in Austria for 2 years. That was a really formative experience for me. But I've been studying German actually since the time that I was in middle school. I come from a family of heritage speakers. So my grandparents and all of their siblings are native German speakers. And that inspired me to start taking the language at a young age formally. And I stayed with it ever since. So I'm very excited to join you all at Swartz Creek and communicate my excitement for German and intercultural experiences with students.
Thank you, Brittany. Any questions from the board with Brittany?
I thought she was one of the students that were like sitting in on her board. I didn't know she was one of our hires. I didn't look at the packet.
You know, I completed my student teaching at Heartland, and I got stopped by one of the security officers once because he thought I was a student leaving school.
You look like a student. That's okay. That's sorry about that. I thought you were one of the students sitting with Brandon, maybe as a student.
No, not a problem at all. I promise. I look like I could still be in high school, but I'm a full 25. So
that's okay. Good for you.
Anyone else? If not, I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Alicia and it's a toss-up. Is that Mike?
Sure.
Alicia and Mike. Okay, any comments or questions? Be it resolved that the Swartz Creek Community Schools Board of Education approves the employment of Brittany Boyle for middle school and high school German teacher as presented. Joanne, could you do roll call, please?
Certainly. Tony?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Alicia?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
And Carrie?
Yes.
7 yeses.
Thank you, and congratulations, Brittany. Welcome aboard. At our normal meetings, we would shake your hand and congratulate you. We'll do that at a future meeting.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and thanks for your patience and waiting this evening.
Maybe
All right.
Carrie,
What was that, Tony?
maybe she should say something in German.
Yes, that would be great.
Any requests?
That
You're
you're
happy
not
to be in
25,
Swartz
that you're not
Creek.
18 years of age. Said, no, I'm not 18 years old.
Ich bin nicht 18 Jahre alt, ich bin eigentlich 25. So I'm not 18 years old, I'm actually 25.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Brittany.
Wonderful.
Go ahead, Rod.
Thank you. I'm also very excited to bring before you today Kylene Taylor. Kylene is being hired for special education. She has 3 years of experience teaching second grade in Indiana, and she has been an amazing substitute for us last year. She spent a lot of time helping out all the elementaries, especially Gaines, Deke, and Elms. And the principals have all raved about her ability in the classroom to not only work with the staff, but the connections that she makes with the kids. And so we're pretty excited to have her join our special ed team at Swartz Creek. Her Bachelor's of Arts comes from Anderson University in Indiana. And Kylene, would you like to say a few things about yourself?
Sure. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm really looking forward to the opportunity to work with Swartz Creek. I actually graduated from Swartz Creek, so it's like going back home. So that's exciting. And I did co-op at Cyrene Elementary my senior year. So I actually get to work with some of those teachers that at one time I was the student of. So that's really neat. I'm excited for that. And yeah, I'm also thrilled about taking on the special education the special education, because I've worked in the general education classroom for 4 years now. So to take on that different role, I'm excited about.
Thanks, Kylene. Anybody have questions? Kylene, what year did you graduate from Swartz Creek?
2010.
Okay, great. All right. No questions? I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Ryan? Did I have a second?
Support.
Tony? All right. Any comments or questions? Be it resolved that the Swartz Creek Community Schools Board of Education approves the employment of Kylene Taylor for Deke Elementary Special Ed Resource as presented. Joanne, can you do roll call, please?
Sure. Chuck?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
Alicia?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Jessica? Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
And Mike?
Yes.
That's 7 yeses.
Thank you. Congratulations, Kylene. We look forward to learning more about you and having the opportunity to congratulate you in person at some point.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Good luck. We know you'll do great things. Thank you. Okay, next. We have several concessions and tentative agreements to go through. Ben, how do you want to do this? You're on mute.
Sorry about that. I think you should take action on each one of them individually.
Okay.
You have all of those, all of that information in your possession. And so we have a superintendent concession for myself and my contract. We have a tentative 1-year agreement for the teachers, as well as AFSCME, as well as PAT. And we also have some concession from our non-union administrative team. So those are all there for your approval tonight.
Okay, so we're going to take these one at a time, and I will ask Joanne to do roll call as recommended by the state. So we will begin with the approval of the superintendent concession. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I think I have Brian with Alicia second.
No, Jessica.
Jessica, sorry. Any comments or questions? Be it resolved that the Swartz Creek Community Schools Board of Education approves the superintendent concession as presented. Joanne, would you do roll call, please?
Yes. Mike,
Yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Chuck,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
Carrie,
Yes.
and Alicia.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Thank you. And thank you, Ben. We appreciate it very much. Thanks for being the leader.
Thank you, Ben.
Okay, next we have the approval of the SCEA tentative agreement. I need a motion.
So moved.
Tony,
Support.
was that Tony or who was that?
That was Mike and Brian.
Mike and Brian? Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think I need to mention that Mr. Paul will not be voting or will be abstaining, correct?
He's on mute.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Due to a relationship per our policy. So any comments or questions? Did I already read this?
No.
No. Okay. Be it resolved that the Swartz Creek Community Schools Board of Education approves the SCEA tentative agreement as presented. Joanne, could you do roll call, please?
Sure. Alicia,
Yes.
Carrie,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Chuck,
Yes.
and Jessica.
Yes.
That's 6 yeses and 1 abstained.
Thank you very much. And I want to thank the teachers union for working so collaboratively with the district. Appreciate it. Also, we have the approval of the ASME tentative agreement. I need a motion.
So moved.
Tony, is that you, Alicia?
Jessica.
Jessica? I don't know why it sounds like you sound like each other tonight. All right. Any comments or questions? Okay. Be it resolved that the Swartz Creek Community Schools Board of Education approves the ASME tentative agreement as presented. Joanne?
Chuck,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Carrie,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
and Alicia.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Thank you, and we want to thank our ASME folks as well. Going on, we have the approval of the PAT, which is the Principals Group tentative agreement. I need a motion.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Brian and Tony, any comments or questions? Be it resolved that the Swartz Creek Community Schools Board of Education approves the PAT tentative agreement as presented. Joanne?
Jessica,
Yes.
Alicia,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Chuck,
Yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Carrie.
Yes.
7 yeses.
And thank you to our principals and assistant principals. Appreciate it very much. Approval of the non-union administrative concession. I need a motion.
So moved.
Okay, that was a tie. Tony and who? Maybe Chuck?
Support.
Okay, Tony and Mike?
Yeah.
All right. Any comments or questions? Be it resolved that the Swartz Creek Community Schools Board of Education approves the non-union administrative concession as presented. Joanne?
Alicia,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Carrie,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Chuck,
Yes.
and Tony.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Thank you, Joanne, and thanks to those administrators. We really appreciate it, and we appreciate you. Moving on, we have, Ben, did you want to go over the SCEA layoffs?
Yeah, certainly. One of the things that we've done over the last few months is we've completed staffing, and in preparation for the upcoming school year and the unknown budget situation, we've looked at how to create as many efficiencies as possible. Unfortunately, we do have a few teachers that we have to lay off at this point, and so the resolution is provided for you, and we were asking that you move to do that. Of course, layoff and recall is still in place for these individuals. They're still entitled to all of those things, but at this time we are needing to reduce in force.
Okay. I need a motion, please.
So moved.
Alicia, do we have a second? Who was the second?
Mike.
Mike, thank you. Okay. Be it resolved that the Swartz Creek Community Schools Board of Education approves the SCE layoffs as presented. Joanne?
Jessica?
Yeah.
Chuck?
Yes.
Alicia?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
And Carrie?
Yes.
7
Thank you.
yeses.
Thank you very much. Okay. Next, we have the approval of the SCEA leave of absence. Ben?
Yeah, so occasionally teachers have an opportunity to explore something that they're passionate about, and historically the board has allowed those things. We're recommending the approval of this particular leave of absence, and it also allows us to create a spot for somebody who otherwise would have been on layoff. So we're recommending the approval of the a leave of absence as presented to you tonight.
Okay, can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Tony? Jessica?
Yeah.
Any comments or questions? Be it resolved that the Swartz Creek Community Schools Board of Education approves the SCEA leave of absence as presented. Joanne, please.
Brian?
Yes.
Alicia?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Jessica? Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
7 yeses.
Thank you very much. All right. Finally, we have the approval of the student handbooks. You need a motion.
So moved.
Tony?
Support.
Mike? Any comments or questions? Alicia, go ahead.
Yes, the original ones that were provided to us, I gave some edits to Kevin and Joanne, and I believe they've been edited for our review. So what's presented are with those edits already, correct?
Yes, that is correct. Put in this afternoon.
For one, Tony, you're added back in.
I'm glad you did that, 'cause I forgot to send that to Kevin.
Thanks, Alicia.
Oh,
you're our editor in chief.
Well, I don't know about that, but.
All right, any other comments?
I have one.
Go ahead, Mike.
Ben, for the benefit of the public, could you tell us a ballpark figure of the total concessions as you did?
A ballpark figure is about just under $1.1 million in concessions between the employee groups, myself, the other administrators. The vast majority of that comes from our largest groups, like the teachers. I will say that all of those agreements do have triggers in place that are predicated on the cut that the state provides And so if we see no cut, obviously those concessions would not commence for certain groups. They would for others, but not for certain groups. And so the total overall concession is over $1 million if we need it, depending on the cuts that come from the state.
Thank you.
That's from all the employees though, right, Ben? Make sure that's noted. That's from the entire group from top to bottom.
That is correct.
Thanks for asking that question, Mike, or asking Ben to share. Appreciate that.
And that's, of course, if the cuts go through, though, right? If the state even has the cuts.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, so we're back at the handbooks.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Hold on. My screen keeps going black. All right. Be it resolved that the Swartz Creek Community Schools Board of Education approves the SCCS student handbooks as presented. Joanne?
Mike,
Yes.
Alicia,
Yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
Chuck,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Carrie,
Yes.
7 yeses.
Thank you very much. And thanks, Mr. Claren, for doing all that work. Appreciate it very much. And I think finally we have as our added item is a motion to move the start date for school back to September 8th. I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Okay, Jessica and Tony?
Support.
Yeah, Jessica and Tony. Any comments or questions? Alicia?
I would just like to acknowledge, at least for the public, that, and parents most importantly, changes are hard right now and changes are going to be coming every day. But making a decision like this to make sure that we are best prepared to start the school year, although this may impact many families to make last minute decisions, I'm hoping that this gives a little bit of fair warning to put some provisions in place to make sure that we've got a smooth start to the school year. But I want to at least acknowledge that it may make some people a little more anxious as they have to change just their personal life around that schedule. So I just want to acknowledge that is all.
Well said, Alicia. Appreciate that.
When will this go out to the parents, Ben? Are you going to get an email out this evening?
You're muted.
I will get something out this evening.
Okay, that's what I was looking at. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else? Okay. Be it resolved that the Swartz Creek Community Schools Board of Education approves the move of the start date for the school year to September 8th, 2020. Joanne?
Mike,
Yes.
Chuck,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
Alicia,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
and Tony.
Yes.
7 yeses.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Okay. Moving on. Do we have any public comment, Travis?
We had 3 people sign up, but no one's on the meeting right now.
Okay. Just to make it official, this is our time for public comment. If you wish to address the board, please initiate the contact as you've been instructed by Travis. And it doesn't seem that we have any. All right, he's shaking his head. All right, moving on. Comments from the board members. Anyone? Alicia?
First of all, I'd just like to acknowledge, I wish I had something else that we could do. But all of our student athletes, their families, the fans and the students. These are some unhappy times and definitely some anxious times. So I just want to acknowledge that a lot of what has happened and what may happen is out of our control. But know that we all stand behind you. And hopefully you'll have a great season in the future.
Thank you, Alicia. It's very hard. Anyone else?
I got another one, Mike. We acknowledged and approved a lot of concessions by the entire staff. It was amazing, and I'll say a pretty easy job on our end when they all came forward and gave of themselves and gave of their pay, honestly, so that our students can have a great education. In our budget, we have annually a stipend for each one of our board members. I would like to propose to my fellow board members that we not take that this year. I appreciate Chuck's suggestion of giving that to our own personal frontline workers or some other way, but I will officially state now that I will not take that money, and I encourage everybody else to do the same.
Thank you, Alicia. I would like to propose, go ahead, Ben. Chuck, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I do. I'm in agreement with Alicia on that. But I would like to do it in sections. So as we go on, we could like allocate the money instead of just putting it back in a fund and then it maybe gets lost. I know this because as a supervisor, I gave money back to the township and it got lost in transition. And from experience, I would like to give that money back. But I think as a suggestion to the board, if they're in agreement, or at least a portion of money, whatever the board members feel to do, is that we could allocate it to certain things so we made sure that money got to where it needed to go. That would be my only concern. And hopefully everybody agrees with that if they decide to do the same thing. Thank you.
Thanks for that suggestion. Go ahead, Mike.
I don't know if I can express myself properly here without getting myself in trouble, but I think when it comes to concessions, these concessions were done privately or in negotiations. I'm offended that I'm asking public to give up $1,500. Everybody's financial condition is different. I and my family, we have our charities, we have things that we support, and we do it privately. And I think it should be privately. I don't think we should be put on the spot. Personally, I will tell you that I use this $1,500 as my Christmas club. That's all I'm going to say, except that I'm willing to give 5%. Our leader gave 5%. I'm willing to give 5%. If that offends anybody, I'm sorry.
No, Mike, thanks for saying that. I just wanted to, before you said that, I was going to say we should put on our next agenda or maybe talk about how we can facilitate this. I don't want to put people on the spot. I don't want to embarrass anybody, and I don't want to put pressure on people. But I also agree with what Chuck said. If people do want to allocate some of those funds to a certain, cause, or our food service folks or whatever it is, that we could have the ability or flexibility, if it's possible, Ben, to do that. This could be kind of a, something you have to talk about with your folks in the central office, but to bring that back in a process for us to do that privately, if people are not willing to do it publicly. But I do think that if people are able to or willing to, that we should give them the mechanism to do that.
Carrie, may I say something?
Sure.
I originally brought this up, and I agree with Alicia, but I also agree with Mike because it may have been wrong for us to bring this up in public and put our fellow board members on the spot. And I agree with Mike, and I think maybe that we should discuss this individually without breaking any open meeting rules act. And if we want to give a little bit of money, like Mike said, maybe be fair to give out a percentage of what our other staff did, but it also could be extended based on the individuality. of the board member based on their own financial needs and wants and what they have. So I agree with both Mike and Alicia. I hope I didn't start anything by, giving money to the food service, but I donated some. It doesn't matter, but we just, it's everybody's individual thing. I agree with Mike. I agree with Alicia. And some people may have different financial standards and their needs. So I think maybe we should maybe put it on an agenda item like you suggested just a moment ago and discuss it next meeting. I think that would be appropriate.
Right. I don't think this is meant to put pressure on anyone in any way, shape, or form, but to give an opportunity if people want to do that. So go ahead.
It gives that appearance sometimes of that. You know what I mean? By, if one does it and one doesn't, that's why I'm kind of agreement on both sides on this. Okay. Thank you.
So can I say something real quick, Carrie?
Sure. Go ahead.
So the mechanism would be if an individual board member chose to take a concession on their board pay, they could they're more than welcome to do so. And we can create that concession by paying them less, whatever it is they choose to take. In the event that they want to donate to a particular department or charity or whatever that is, the best thing to do is to provide the stipend to the board member, and then the board member make that individual decision, because the school does not have an accounting mechanism to allow for the accounting rules do not allow for the school to make a donation to another entity. So you would have to choose to do that. So you would take the money, and even if you wanted to donate back to the school, that would be the proper methodology in which to do that. So each board member can make that decision. And if you want to reach out to me individually, we can certainly handle that easily.
That's
great.
Idea.
Yep.
Okay. Great. Thanks, Alicia. Go ahead.
I would just like to apologize. That was not to put anybody on the spot. I guess my premise to that is because there was a budgetary component. That's why I thought we had to discuss that publicly. So not to put anybody on the spot. And I was just encouraging others to think to do it as well is all. So I just want to apologize, Mike, for sure, but to the entire board.
No, Alicia, I appreciate that. And I think it's good for us to talk about this. And is there an opportunity to do something if we so choose to do that? So thank you for bringing it up. And Mike, thanks for your comments as well, and everybody else. Anyone else? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And I agree with everybody on the board on this, and maybe we should do it as a gift together and see what we can all put in and do it to things. That way it's more cohesion and we're doing it together instead of each going into different directions also, just as a thing. And like Ben said, I think he's right about the financing part. Do it individually, but maybe we can discuss it somehow without breaking Open Meetings Act and pick 3 or 4 organizations that we want to do it for, and then everybody can then give what they want. I think that'd be a great thing, and everybody can that way we're all part of the team, and we're trying to help our brother citizen and sister citizen here in the community to get through these tough times. Once again, thank you.
Well, thank you, Chuck. Anyone else?
I would just like to give some kudos out, if I may, for a minute. It's been a rough, at least few weeks for Ben, and thanks for everything you've done with all the staff and the team. And Alicia was right. Kevin, I think it was Alicia or Carrie that said that about going through the handbook. That was really wonderful. All the staff that we have and the concessions from all the different varied unions and even the non-union employees in our food service staff that Ben talked about. It is one thing, again, that it's a huge blessing to be able to be a part of this community and this district in the way that I am, and see how how all of our staff comes together and works so hard for everybody. And I just want to say thank you. There's not going to be a football season yet, and if I had pom-poms, I'd just like to cheer them for Swartz Creek staff. That's what I'm going to get. So that's all I have to say.
Thanks, Jessica. I think we all echo that. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I just, this agenda was full of content. I'm amazed that there was this much content in there. All the concessions and all the other thoughts of COVID-19, all the precautions, the start of school. And just everything about this agenda, it was huge. And I appreciate Ben and your administrative team for putting these things together. A lot of work, and I'm just very impressed. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Anyone else? Well, I have a couple people to thank and to congratulate. I think Dave Samancic, Heather Loney, and Tanya Brownfield. They rock it always, but thank you for all your work and on training teachers and really going over and above. For all the task forces that you mentioned, Ben, all the folks that have just been meeting tirelessly and endlessly, and I know the work isn't done yet. I want to thank Kevin again and our food service folks. And I also want to welcome and congratulate Brittany and Kylene. Thanks for sticking with us. This is a long meeting, but thanks a lot and welcome to the community and to the district. And we wish you all the best. I think that was it. Did I miss anybody? Oh, the administrators, the folks in facilities and maintenance, and all of our teachers and all of our support staff. And, you know, it's not just the concessions, it's what you do every day. So thanks. And with that, no more comments. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Mike?
Support.
Brian? Any comments or questions? Hearing none. How about we let Joanne off the hook? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Joanne, thank you to you. You are amazing. So everybody have a good week, and we'll talk to you again soon. Attend the town hall, everybody, if you can. Thanks, Ben.
Take care.